What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys because we're going to be doing another deck profile, and I'm dropping the Fortune Lady archetype for you guys. Yeah, I figured why not. I had some itch for some Fortune Ladies on the channel, and it's been a minute since I dropped some Fortune Lady stuff. I honestly still enjoy Fortune Ladies, and it's literally been over 11 years since the Fortune Lady archetype has been dropped in Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually, I think a little longer. Because Ancient Prophecy, OCG, and GCG came around at the same time. I want to say it's like 2009. Um, late 2009 was Stardust Overdrive. That had the rest of the Fortune Ladies. That was Fire, Wind. No, that was Wind, Water, Dark, Earth. Because Fire and Light were already out. Um, and then 10 years later, here comes Every and Pass to join the full lineup of Fortune Ladies. They have a lot of support cards and everything. And you can build variations of Fortune Ladies. It's all up to how you want to build the Fortune Ladies. Now, before I go any further into the video, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell so you can be informed of when I do upload more content. And if you like to, you can hit me up on social media as I leave the links to the social media accounts in the description box below. So, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and now we can get into the deck profile. So, starting off with our monsters, I'm rocking 3 copies each of Fortune Lady Past and Fortune Lady Light. I got 2 copies of Fortune Lady Water, followed by 1 copy each of Fortune Lady Fire, Fortune Lady Wind, and Fortune Lady Dark. For our non-Fortune Lady monsters, 2 copies of Kinka Bayou, 2 copies of Jester Confit, 2 copies of Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, and 3 copies of Effect Veil. I was trying to figure out how I want to ratio this out, but it's up to you how you want to ratio out your hand drops. Just because I'm so fitted with space in the main deck. Moving on from there, let's go on to the spells. We'll start off with the Fortune spells. We have 3 copies of Fortune's Vision, 3 copies of Fortune Lady Calling, 3 copies of Fortune's Future, 2 copies of Future Visions, 2 copies of Spell Book of Secrets, 2 copies of Spell Book of Knowledge, 1 copy each of Terraforming, 1 for 1, and Instant Fusion. Oh, and Magicalized Fusion. For the only trap card in the deck, Fortune Lady Rewind. Then we move on to the extra deck. Okay, let's start off with the synchros. We got 1 copy of our girl, Fortunately Every, 1 copy of F.A. Dawn Dragster, 1 copy of Cyframe Lord Omega. Then we got 1,000 Ice Restrict, 1 Millennium Ice Restrict, 1 Sea Monster of Tethys, and 1 copy of Quintet Magician. Then for all these amazing Link monsters, 1 copy of Salamangre Almirage, 1 copy of Link Karibo, 1 copy of Halqui Fibrix, 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 1 copy of Celine, the Queen of Master Magician, and 1 copy of Excess Cave Talker. So that pretty much rounds out both the main and the extra. Let's talk Fortune Lady. So some of the bigger assets of this deck are basically going to be these 2 monsters here. Fortune Lady Light, Fortune Lady Pass. These are 3 you must have 3s of. Fortune Lady Pass is your tuner. She has the ability to manipulate the levels of any Fortune Lady on the field by banishing any number of spellcasters from your hand, your field, or graveyard, then increasing or decreasing the level of that Fortune Lady by the number of monsters that you banish. Most of the time, you're going to probably be increasing the level. 9 out of 10 is probably going to be her. And that's just because of the synchro summoning. Synchroing was an issue Fortunately had because they didn't have their own synchro monster. But thanks to the introduction of the newer Fortunately support cards, which all of them actually were really easy to obtain, the Fortunately stuff was a big reprieve, and wow, did we need it, because Fortunately, poor Fortune Ladies, you guys are were like many other archetypes from the GX era, from the 5Ds era, and literally got little to no support, and then had to wait years later to actually get it. And it's not too bad, so it is actually a really good comeback. for the Fortunately, because now you have your own tuner and you can access a ton of synchro summoning. So your extra deck can be half blue and half white if you wanted it to, just so that you can play around with links and synchro monsters. Fortunately, light is a must-have because she can summon any Fortune Lady whenever she's removed from the field by a card effect. While she's face up, I do mine. So you have to account to that. But she can grab any Fortune Lady in the main deck and put them onto the field. Now, fortunately, water is your draw power for whenever she's summoned by the effect of Fortune Lady. Whenever she says something, you can draw another Fortunately, other than Fortunately Water, you can draw 2 cards. I've seen combo decks literally build because there's multiple Fortune Lady waters being played. And wow, the combinations are bananas. Let me tell you, they are crazy with her. I'm only running one of fire, wind, and water, wind and dark because they're not too much of the greatest options. They are resourceful in their own way. Thing is, they're kind of limited due to how their effects have not really helped evolve with how Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of going through its changes as it is. Fortunately, fire isn't too bad because she can be summoned by any fortunately card effect. Then she can target a face-up monster on your opponent's side of the field and destroy it. Then inflict damage to your opponent. She does have to be face up in order for the effect to activate, but that's perfectly fine if that's ever the case because you can just link her off or something. Fortunately, wind is a problem because wind destroys cells and traps up to the number of fortunately you control. No less than that. But no less than that. The only problem is, fortunately, Wind has to do it on a normal summon, and you have way better options to use your normal summon for. And unfortunately, Wind can not always be one of them. If Wind had the whole when she's normal or special summon, like most of the other Fortunately monsters, then it wouldn't be such a problem. But she is here just for that bit of removal. Dark pretty much can summon any Fortune Lady monster whenever a Fortune Lady monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave. Although it's not the biggest resource, but Dark can be handy in some way, especially for link climbing and exceeding. So link climbing and synchro summoning. You can exceed too if you wanted to and put some in there. Kikabai is a good staple because it can grab your level 1s and send them to the field. This doesn't make Fortunately Light lose her timing because that effect to return himself to the hand and then banishing the monster that he special summoned happens simultaneously, and then she can trigger off of being removed from the field, so there's no missing there. Kikabai can also grab Fortunately Pass, you can grab Effect Veiler, and Jester Config, who's also making his appearance. Jester Config, I know, seems like a wild card, but let me talk about Jester Config. Jester Config does not force you to waste your normal summon. You can easily special summon Jester Config in special attack in face up attack position. And then the only downside to Config is that during your opponent's end phase, you bounce this card and a face up monster your opponent controls back to hand. But Jester Config probably won't be the last thing on the field that long. You're just using Config to help do some extensions, which is why it's here. Hand traps are self-explanatory, so I'm just leave Veiler and Ash in their own rates, but you kind of get the picture of when you see them, you know why they're there. Moving on to the spells, we have Search in the copies of Fortune's Vision. You have its protection effect, which is great because it allows you to protect your monsters from being affected by the card effects for the turn. Likewise, whenever your opponent would banish a card or cards, you're able to not take any damage from the first attack that your opponent will launch. So there's some defenses there. Not the biggest of defenses in terms of the last effect, but those first 2 effects really great because you got a Tinky and you also have some defense against other card effects. Fortune's Calling. This allows you to search some of the Fortune Lady really good with the amount of the Fortune Lady you have. You just have to control another Fortune Lady to play it, but trust me, you get a Fortune Lady Water or a Dark, or you get a Fortune Lady Water or a Light, you're good. You can go for Earth. You go for Pass. You can go for Light to have them present on the field when you do some combo plays there. You are locked into synchro summoning, but if you max out some synchro monsters in your extra deck, you're going to be perfectly fine. Then Fortune Future for some draw power and sending your fortune leads to the graveyard. You have the Spellbook of Secrets to search for the Spellbook of Knowledge. We get some hands because you can just take advantage of Jester Config. You can just take advantage of Fortunate Light and her ability. So you got some good targets there. And you fill up your graveyard to send cards like Water and stuff to graveyard as well. We got the two copies of Future Visions to disrupt your opponent's normal summons. Take advantage of this card when it comes to Fortunately Light because it'll allow her to trigger off her ability and then she can get another Fortunately onto the field. You have the Terraforming to help you search for that. One for one, with cards like Light are passed onto the board. Instant Fusion to grab your Instant Fusion targets so you can have some fun with them. And the Magical Ice Fusion to get Quintet Magician. The last card, of course, is just another combo piece if needed be, and that is Fortune Lady Rewind. So that's summon any of all your Fortune Lady monsters that are banished with different names, putting them onto the board. But if during the end phase, you do have to return them to the main deck. This is kind of a card that you want to play in your standby. This is also why it's like only one of it in the deck because yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's still a trap card, so you do have to play around with that. Going on to the extra deck, we do have, of course, their boss monster. Fortunately, every I'm remembering one every just so I can thin out the extra deck. She's a really good resource for she can summon herself to the field by banishing casters in your graveyard and then putting herself on board. Then during your standby, or pretty much whenever she increases her level, you can target one monster your opponent controls to face up and banish it. So you got some removals there. FA Downer Dragster is good for some negation. And real quick to make with the Fortune Ladies, you have some hand disruption with Cyframe Lord Gamma. No, sorry, like Cyframe Lord Omega. I'm sorry. And you get some also some recovery from this card as well. Really good monster. I really just wanted to drop him in here. Instant fusion targets, Thousand Eyes Restrict, and Millennium Eyes, snatching up your opponent's big monsters and not having to deal with them. You got a tuner in the Sea Monster, so that way you can get into your synchros fast. Quintet Magician, I wanted just a big beater to drop with at least one big card, and that's why you have the Magical Eyes Fusion. If you don't want to play the Magical Eyes Fusion, you drop it and you can drop in another synchro monster, if please. But I wanted to drop in something like this because it can't be tributed, can't be used as fusion material, and it can be struck like card effects. So those are awesome things to have. Going down the link side, the link monster lineup. So Almarash is here for the Oops Noble Summon monster got negated. Linkaribo is really good standard link 1. You can opt out for any of the any of the restrict monsters. Hakui Fibrex with its combos with tuners. And then of course you can play around with Hakui Fibrex because that helps you get into, of course, the other monsters, which can either be Nightmare Unicorn or the beautiful Selene, the Queen of Master Magician. For removal, you have Cerberus, you have Phoenix, and you have Unicorn. Monster, Spell and Trap, Bounce. Selene, she can get regularly every monster from the graveyard and put them onto the board with her additional ability. You're probably just using that because you're going to go into Access Code Talker. A monster who can banish link monsters, 2 increases on attack, and then have the ability to destroy other cards your opponent controls on the field and just make himself a big beat stick. Which can be handy because, unfortunately, don't have too many beat sticks of their own. You gotta do a lot of pull around to get them onto the board. But because of a lot of the new cards and support that are going around with Fortune Ladies and everything, you're pretty much set in stone with this. So you don't have to worry about anything, honestly. It's just once you do your link climb, you're gonna have fun with your link climb. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. If you wanted some add-ons additions, I was just throwing in Reborn and Duster just for some add-ons in case. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the end of this video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. And pretty much till next time, because I did all my outro stuff early. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. HPJ signing out. Take care.